Hello everyone, this is my basic Blender tutorial for Mario Kart Wii. Today I'm just going to be covering some of the basics like movement, the object modes, and a little bit of modeling and UV editing. So to begin, when you open you'll see you have this, this and this. They're not particularly useful, they're just sort of here to like showcase what Blender can do. So if you press A on your keyboard and then delete, you can just delete everything. So now you have this. So you may notice I've been moving my camera around a little bit. To do this, you can use your middle mouse button, just click it in, and then move the mouse, and it will move the camera. You can also scroll upwards and downwards to zoom in and out. And if you hold down Shift, click in the middle mouse, and then move it about, you'll see that it moves, just like that. You can also hold down Control, which just gives you a bit more control. Obviously. So now if you go ahead and press tab, you'll see, oh hang on, if you add something by holding Shift A, scrolling onto mesh, we'll add a plane. This just creates your standard run-of-the-mill flat plane. You can now press tab and enter edit mode. This is where you're going to be spending the majority of your time, because object mode is just to add new objects. Although you can be in edit mode, it just changes, it adds a new collection sort of thingy. I think object groups. So now if you press tab, you'll see that you have this. You can select these vertices by just left clicking on them. You can change to edge select by pressing 2 on the row of numbers at the top of your keyboard. Or you can change to face select by pressing 3. I prefer face select, to be honest, and vertices select. You just get a bit more control with those two, but edge select is really handy. So yeah, so if you see just there, I moved the edge. You can do this if you select what you want to select, press G, you'll see you can move it. But if you want to bind it to one of these axes, you can press X to move it along the red axis, Y to move along the green, and Z to move along the blue, which is upwards. And you can press right click to cancel. I think you can also press escape, yeah, but I prefer right click. Now you'll see I can extrude, so select what you want to select, again with the left click. If you hold down Shift, you can select multiple vertices at a time, which is good to know. You press E, and then X will move it along here, Y along here, and Z along here. That's mainly going to be your basis for modeling. So if you want to get started on track creation, you'll see that the way that most people start out is by first modeling your layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down on the right here. You can see this little wrench, click on it. This is the bread and butter of Blender modeling tools. You can add a modifier here, and you're going to see there's a lot of options. So what I have to do, I have to scroll down to Subdivision Surface. This is what we're going to be using. What this does is it just sort of cuts up your plane. As you can see here, it's turned it into an octagon from just a normal plane. So you can extrude this out, or you can move it with G. But what most people do is, if you hold down Alt, drag downwards and hold down in the middle mouse button, you can enter this top down view. I believe you can also do this by pressing a numpad key, but I don't have that, so we're going to go with this. So if you hold down Control now, position your mouse to where you want the track to go, and press in right click, you'll see that it's extruded itself outwards and positioned it correctly. So what you can do from here is just move along. We're going to scroll out a little bit, and create a nice little easy layout. See, it doesn't look great. I just made this in about 5 minutes. It doesn't look great, but we made this in about 5 seconds, so we'll go with it. If you press C, you'll see that you can select multiple vertices very quickly at the same time. This is really useful. Now if you press S, you can scale in. You can also do this on planes. I think you can hold down Shift X, Shift Y, Shift Z to scale on every axis apart from the button you pressed. This can be useful, but I've not really used it that much. But yeah, it's just good info to know. So now if you have this here and you want to make some edits, you can press 2, select the edge, and move it around with G, press R to rotate, lock it to the Z axis by pressing Z, and then rotate. So we're just going to do that here a little bit, just to try and fix things up. You can also move it. But if you want to move edges, you want to stay in this top-down view. Otherwise, it will move along the other axes as well. But yeah, we're gonna. If it doesn't look particularly pretty, it doesn't matter, because once you subdivide it with the modifier, it'll come out looking a lot better than if you don't. See, we can remove the modifier by pressing this X over here, and yeah, it doesn't look great. But once you add the modifier, it will look perfectly fine. So now if you want to apply it, you'll need to press tab to go back into object mode. Click on this little arrow here, click apply, and now you'll see we have it completely modelled. So what we're going to do here, we're going to just give it a little bit of life. We're going to create some off-road, so press C again, select all the vertices on the outside. If you hold down the middle mouse, you can unselect vertices, which is useful for if you overextend like that. Hold down left click, just select all of these, and then once you select everything inside of this loop here, you can press F, and just like that you created some off-road. So you can now move this up with that, or what I like to do is triangulate faces like this. Doesn't look good, but this just gives you a bit more control, and you can just sort of edit it later. Doesn't really matter. Or what you could do, so Control Z is to undo. You can inset the faces like this. If it, as you can see over here, it doesn't look great, so we can't really do that. But that's only because these two faces start overlapping. It sort of just breaks the whole thing. So, but yeah, if you have a lot of like a big open area, like if it was just like this here, you would have a lot more control when insetting the faces, although you might need to sort of touch on it a bit more, fix it up a little bit. That looks terrible. But yeah, if you double tap G, you can move it along this edge here. We've got this edge here. This just gives you a bit more control. It will affect the texturing slightly, but that's only because it's expanding this face here. You can see that this face here is bigger when I do this than it is normally. So I'll show you what I mean later. I can add a texture now. So if you come over to this tab, the red circle, the checkable pattern, you'll see that you create a new material. Usually it's called material without the .001, but I don't know why it's done that. So if you click on the name there, you can then type in your name. So we're going to type this road, and by default the first material you create will be automatically assigned to all of these. So we're going to go image texture, and as you see there, nothing's happened. But once you go up to the top right and click on this checkerboard sphere, you can see that it's gone completely black. This is fine, because once you open, and we're just going to find, we'll use this logo that I made earlier. Wow, that looks really good. Yeah, it's sort of applied it to everything. So what you want to do, you want to press C, go into face select by pressing 3, and then just select all the faces that you want your road to be on. Over here. selected a few of these faces incorrectly. And now what you can do is, if you go in the top left, you can drag and hold. You can click and drag over here, and you'll see that it's creating a new viewport. So what you want to do, scroll all the way along using the scroll wheel, click on this thing on the top left, and go to UV editor. Now you'll see here it's done a bunch of shit. So you press A to select everything, U, and then you click on this, unwrap. So now this will give you basically what's shown in this top down view, just rotated slightly obviously compared to what I can see. You can see here, it's pretty much the same thing. So what you want to do is you want to click here, using this handy extension I've got called UV Squares, which you will download from the, I can put a link in the description for a download. To install this, you just go Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then click Install up here. I then install the .zip file, which will be down in your download somewhere. So if you click to grid by shape, that'll just put a massive grid there with all of the faces in, keeping its original shape so there's no like distortion. So what you want to do, you want to align it in the center and just press S and then scale it out. So now you can see here that aside from the weird texture, it looks pretty normal. I'll be back in a second with a normal road texture so you can fully see its effect. Alright, so I'm back now, and you can see with a normal road texture it doesn't look too bad. There's not really any distortion. You can see it looks like a road. Now if you want to change how it looks, you can press S, press Y or X depending on what axis it's on, and you can then press G and then Y or X depending on what way it's rotated to move it about. Just make sure it's a bit too big. We might have to scale this down a little bit. It doesn't matter that much, but just if you're a perfectionist, you might want to make sure it's just completely in the confines of the texture there, so it doesn't end up repeating. But yeah, that's the road texture. We can do the same for the grass here. You just want to select the grass, and then you can create a new material by pressing this, new, then grass, name it there, and then press assign here. So then you can come over image texture, and I will be back when I find a good grass texture to use. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see, the grass looks a bit distorted. For what I do for grass, it's probably not the most efficient, but because this is a basics tutorial, I don't care. You can unwrap using U and then unwrap. Select everything with A and then just press S and just scroll it out, scale it out so it looks good. You can see there, that's probably a bit too small. You can scale it down until it's just near enough right where the player won't notice. So then what I like to do, I just like to move that to the side so I can see my modelling on the big screen. And yeah, that's the basics done. I mean, you can extrude this out here. What you can do, what I would do, fill this in, and if you want to, you may notice this is a bit, there's only one edge there. You can press Control and R, and this will subdivide. So, and then if you use the scroll wheel to scroll up, you can add more vertices. So you just add more there, and this is already an n-gon, which is just a polygon with n amount of sides. You can right click, triangulate this, because Mario Kart Wii doesn't really like n-gons that much, but it doesn't really matter. And you can triangulate here, and yeah, that looks fine. You might want to UV map this as well. What I do is just select all of my grass by clicking select. Oh, that's the road, hang on. By clicking select. This needs to be assigned to grass as well. And then just unwrapping the grass all at the same time, so it gets a pretty much the same scale. You don't have to do this, but just for consistency, you might feel like it's a better option. So yeah, you just scale up here, Like, scale it down slightly till it looks good. Press G to move it around again. And then you close this. Of course, if you have a bigger screen than I do on my little laptop, you might not need to do that. So yeah, and now what you can do if you want off-road on this side, select all the vertices again, like so. You might also need this another add-on called Offset Extrude, which I will put in the description. You install that by going to the Preferences tab, and you click on this, and okay, I did something wrong. That's fine. Hang on. Yeah, I just had a rogue vertex selected, so just make sure all the vertices you selected are on the outside. You didn't accidentally select one on the inside, because it will throw this error down the bottom, overlapping edge loops detected. So just unselect that, and you'll be good to go. You can press Offset Extrude and then just move it out. You may need to fix it up because it'll do this. But you can also open up this by clicking here and moving the width up. You can change the angle so you can make it slightly slanted. You can sort of move this just by moving your mouse and holding down left click. You can change the depth as well, like so. We'll just keep this at 0 though, just for simplicity. We can fix this just by selecting all of these. Just scale it down, move it up just to make it a bit more natural. Although, just a little test track, so it doesn't really matter. Of course, for your track it will be different since you're actually trying. And then yeah, you can UV map this, same as everything else. So yeah, you've got your big whole circuit sorted. So what you would like to do now maybe is add some walls. So we'll select this here, all these ones. You don't have to use Offset Extrude for this, but I'm going to because it just gives me a bit more control. And we'll change the angle to be 90 degrees. Just play around with this until you get something you like. Yeah, this will be fine. So then you can sort of just do that again. What I like to do is just give my walls a bit of depth here. You can keep playing around with this. I'm just doing the very basics here, but just give it a sort of wallish effect, like a little cliff, and scale it up again, like so. You might want to play with the width, and then press F to fill that in. So now you'll see you've got a pretty convincing, easy wall. Now what you might notice here, and probably my favourite tip, you can see these faces, you can see the lighting on these faces, like it's very distinct. You can easily tell where the face begins and where it ends. So what you want to do to fix this, you want to go into object mode, click on the object that you want to change the shading of, right click and press shade smooth. Now you'll see it looks a little weird, like the lighting looks a little harsh here, but don't worry, this won't affect anything in game. So now you can't really tell when the one face ends and one begins, and it just looks more natural. So when you're in game you won't really be able to tell that this was actually modelled by a person. So what you can do here, you can grab your wall texture, just select everything. For the top you can just put your grass texture again, or something else if you want, I don't care. And then select everything, select these, and I'll come back when I've selected a good cliff texture. Okay, I'm back with my cliff texture that I have. You just want to go back, you unwrap, and it's the same as the road. You can just click to grid by shape. You may notice that it's at the wrong angle, so you'll have to turn it minus 90 degrees or whatever. It might be normal 90, but it's usually minus 90 for me. And you can scale it, and you'll see here it doesn't, if we add the grass texture here, it doesn't really look very natural. So we're going to fix this by giving it a bit of a grassy overhang. you may notice this in some of Nintendo's tracks. I think Mushroom Gorge has it, where the grass sort of just sticks out by the cliff. This is really easy to do as well, so don't panic, guys, don't panic. So you can select the vertices the same you would for a road. I'm going to do these by hand because I think using C would select far too many and it'd just be a bit tedious. There's not that many to select, so just select the ones where the grass is connected directly to the wall. As you can see, I'm messing up a little bit. I'm clicking on the wrong ones, but yeah, like so. Use offset extrude by Control E, and then just scale out slightly. Like this is good enough. And what you want to do is you want to change the angle. If this is wrong, by the way, you can click this arrow here and it'll automatically convert it. So you want to change the angle to just be a little bit of an overhang. And now you can press into face select, just select all of these, like so. And this will be assigned the special texture that you can use for the grass overhang. I'll come back when that's done. Okay, so now we have our grass overhang. You may see the grass is a little bit too overscaled. That this doesn't really matter, but since no one's gonna really see it, but it might bug you, so you can change this obviously by just scaling scaling this up slightly to make it bigger, and just do that until it looks right, like there. There you go. So yeah, you now have your little track. You might want to add some little course elements like a sign, fences. Fences are really easy. If you want 2D modeled fences like in Moving Meadows, you can just select the vertices that you want to extrude. Watch out if you have vertices that connect to each other and form a face. If you try and extrude, you'll see that it extrudes all of them. So what you might want to do is use edge select instead. This just means that you won't have to worry about this. So yeah, just do that. Extrude up until it's suitable. I mean, you're gonna have a good sort of scale for the player. And I just realised this will be slightly too small for Mario Kart Wii. So if you want to get it right scale, I think these rows here, if you use the tape measure, just go out like this. It's not entirely accurate. Yeah, this is 2 meters, which is just average blender size. It's not completely accurate, but it's near enough. So I think Mario Kart Wii, the standard, is from anywhere from 25 blender meters to 35 meters. You can sort of play around, experiment, change the road sizes, whatever. So you press S, and then you type in 15, press enter, and now the road width will be 30 meters, like so. That's near enough. It's not particularly accurate. So also, you'll see this checkerboard pattern. You want to make sure everything the player can drive on is above this, because this is 0, and Mario Kart Wii treats this like an out of bounds, regardless of if it's in the KCL or not. So if you're underneath 0, you will always be counted out of bounds. So yeah, you can change this to a fence texture. I don't have one on me right now, so I'm not going to bother. But you can just set this up looking how you like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some mountains here. You might want to play around with some of the other modes that Blender has to offer. So if you go back into object mode, add a plane, scale it up quite a fair amount, and then lower it below the track like this. You may start to see some clipping now because it's really big. What you want to do is you want to go click on this, click on view, change the clip end, and just put this at a big number like that, and you'll be able to see a lot. You don't have to worry about that. So what you want to do, go back into edit mode and just subdivide this. We'll give it 25, so you can write 25 there, and then 25 here. You'll see this creates a nice big grid. For higher poly tracks, this isn't completely recommended, but since mine's so basic, the amount of tries probably isn't going to lag the game or anything, so we'll be good. If you want to see how many tries your track has, you can click on this where the two circles are. This will open the viewport overlays tab. Click on statistics, and it will tell you in the left. I think Mario Kart Wii has a hard limit somewhere in the 60,000s, but generally lag isn't really affected by try count unless you're being like really egregious with it and you have a lot in one place. You may start to see some Z fighting over here, but that's normal. That won't look like that in game, just because the clip ends a really high number. But if it annoys you, you can go back to, if you change the clip start to a higher number, and you'll notice it goes away. But it may also mean that some things are clipping when you get too close to them, but you can then change that at will. So now, if you want to create some mountains, you go over here. You can go to sculpt mode and just start drawing. You can change the radius over here. This will make your area of effect a bit bigger, so you can see when you hold down left click and drag. It's a little awkward. I don't really like using it, but sometimes it's nice just to create some terrain features. You'll notice this, it might be a bit too strong. You can test the strength. You can put it up slightly, up to 1, or you can put it down. If you want to specifics, you can click this minus and this will make it go down. Click the plus and you make it go up. So there's a whole bunch of different tools you can sort of mess around with them. The smooth option, it's very nice. It just sort of smooths everything down. You want to lower the strength for this one just so it doesn't overwork itself too much. You can click up here, click object mode, just shade this smooth. But yeah, you'll see that it started to form some nice hills. You can just keep playing around with this by clicking on this one here, draw, put the strength up, and it creates sort of a circle. If you're not too keen with this like I am, you can also use proportion editing. So by pressing O, you'll see that it's activated this, and if you click here, you can change these. So if you put it to random, you see that if I select a vertex, press G, notice it won't do anything right now. Then when I press G, and you scroll down with the middle mouse button, you see it starts to affect a wider range of vertices. So you can just sort of play around this, get some nice hills by going to smooth, lowering it. Just doing this, we'll raise a couple of these. Make it affect the track too. You don't get quite as subtle of an effect as something like sculpt mode, since there are a lot less options, but it's far easier to just get the hang of. So we'll do this, and then what you can do if you want it, if it's looking a little bit soft right now. So what you can do is you can edit it, or come down to what I like to refer to as the bread and butter of Blender. Come to the modifiers and just give it a subdivide modifier, which you'll be able to find somewhere around here. It's not the subdivision surface. It should be, oh, it's decimate modifier, my mistake. So now if you lower this, you'll see it's not doing anything in edit mode. Once you switch to object mode and try it, it just lowers the try count, and it will give it that more rugged edge sort of feel. Since it's lowering the try count, it looks a lot more blocky and more triangular. So now if you press apply and go into edit mode, you can really see what it's done there. This will give you less control afterwards since there's less to work with, but it can be useful in just giving you that nice mountain effect. And of course you can go in and give it a, if you want to use textures from another object up in the top right, you can just hold down shift in object mode, hold down shift and left click the ones you want to join, press Ctrl J. Although note that every one of these textures needs to be its own object, which you can separate really easily, but you can do that when you're done, so we'll go through in a bit. So yeah, we'll select everything here. You can select all of the linked ones by pressing L, and this will link all of the, select all the linked faces to this one face. We'll give it the grass texture for now. you see here, it looks somewhat normal. This looks like a good start. So what you could do here, you don't want the player interacting with this obviously because it's a big mountain on the side of the road. You could just give it like a fence or something. Just extrude that up. If you want to turn off proportional editing, actually that's probably a good idea. Just press O again. Now we turn it off. So yeah, that's pretty much the basics of modeling. I might have missed a few things out, so I can create a follow-up video. If you have any requests, just message me in the Custom Track Jams Discord, which will be linked in the description, or just leave a comment and I'll update this whenever. But yeah, that's all you need to know for the basics of making a track. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.